Hey guys, welcome to my guide on the Dragbat attack at Town Hall 11, and I already have a guide for the Dragbat at Town Hall 10. And if you're coming in as a new Town Hall 11 and you've never done Dragbat at Town Hall 10, then I definitely recommend that you go and check that one out first. And that's because most of the basic concepts are the same for the Dragbat at Town Hall 10 and Town Hall 11. Which is like the dragons take out as much splash on the base as possible, and then the bats sweep in and take out all the point defenses at the back end, and you use your free spells to protect the bats from the splash damage defenses at the back end. And the main weakness of the dragon attack, say something like Mars Dragon or Electron Dragon, the main weakness is that it's very difficult to funnel or path the dragons towards the back end air defenses, and that problem is basically solved with the bat spell, because the bats can sweep in and take out all the air defenses at the backside, and you can use the free spells to protect them from the multi-infernos and wizard towers. So the main difference between the Town Hall 11 and the Town Hall 10 Dragbat is, number one, you have the eagle, and you need your dragons to take out the eagle artillery, because it's quite important to use the dragons against to take out the eagle early, and because the bats really can't handle the eagle, like one single shot and it's gonna kill all your bats. And the other main difference is that you have the bat wave, which is a lot stronger at Town Hall 11 than the bat bomb, which is stronger at Town Hall 10. And all right, so let's start breaking down a few bases, and let's see what the thought process is behind these attacks. The first things that you're looking at when you're planning a drag bat are the sweepers. So one's pointing like this, and this one's pointing like this, and the eagle artillery. And you're also looking at the enemy archer queen, but it's not that important. And then you want to mark out all the splash damage on the base. So you have splash here, here, here. This is 4, 5, 6, 7. You have the 5 wizard towers and the 2 inferno towers, and then you're gonna mark out the air defenses. So you have 1 air defense here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the main enemy of the dragons are the red ones, which is the air defenses, okay? And the main enemy of the bats are the blue ones, which is the splash damage. And the ones marked in yellow are basically they're the main part of the attack. They're gonna wreck the entire attack if that doesn't go down, okay? Or if that part doesn't go well enough. So what you want to do is you want to take out as much of these blue ones with your dragons and leave as many red ones for your bats, because for example on this one you have this area which has all this clumped up splash damage, and as well as the eagle artillery, okay? You're gonna get 1, 2, 3, and this is 4, okay? So you're gonna get a lot of splash damage down if you send your dragons in like this, and then your bats can come in like this, and they can take out 2 air defenses here, and you can freeze through this wizard tower and this wizard tower, okay? That's basically that's the basic plan. And the other thing which is very important for the dragbat attack is the pathing, and I can't really stress this enough, but this is actually this is the make or break of this attack. The pathing has to be well planned out, and you have to take out all the trash buildings on the outside. For example, we're gonna funnel this area here with the heroes, and you can see this dead space over here. This is a good natural funnel for your dragons, so always use this dead space to your advantage, okay? And so basically if I have like this area down, then, and this area is down with the heroes. So then I can have my dragons come in into this compartment and take out all the high value splash damage defenses. And when you're suing your heroes, you want to take out at least one air defense. Like I'm going to use this queen here to take out this air defense, and you basically want to take out as many of them at the start as possible. And this air defense is going to be left, so what we're going to do is we're going to use a hound to tank this air defense. It's always worth bringing a hound because it costs just 30 population space, and it's going to save more than at least 2 of your dragons because of all the tanking it gives you. And then the dragons are going to come in like straight from here, and they're going to charge into that air defense and take it down early. And now you can see that we have accounted for everything. We've accounted for the eagle, we've accounted for the sweepers since we're going into this base against the sweepers, and we've accounted for the air defenses, and we've accounted for the splash. So let's have a look at the attack now. So I start off by dropping 2 cocoa loons there to test for any black mines, and then I'm going to drop an E-drag over there to start funding out the right side area. And what happens here is that my cocoa loons, they pull out the enemy clan castle, so it's not ideal. Basically you don't want the clan castle to be pulled by your funnel, and you want to be careful that you don't pull out the clan castle with your heroes. In this case it wasn't such a big problem because the balloons only pull out air targeting CC. But if your heroes pull out the clan castle, then there's a chance that something like a hound or an ice golem gets pulled, and that's you don't want that. You don't want anything coming out of that clan castle which doesn't target which won't come out if the dragons went in over there. Okay. And you have to wait for the eagle to go down before you start with your bats, and that's pretty important because if you start your bats early and then your dragons, they enter like once the dragons start targeting the eagle, they get inside that range where the eagle can't target, and then the only target for the eagle is the bats. So you have to be very careful that the eagle goes down before you start the bats. So let's have a look at the next base now. Once again, the first thing that you're looking at is the eagle, and then you have the sweepers pointing over here, and this one's pointing over here. So potentially I could come in with my dragons over here into the eagle and use my stone slammer over here for this multi. But the problem with that is that this enemy sweeper is gonna be pushing back my stone slammer, and it's gonna lose a lot of value. And the other problem is that it's gonna be difficult for me to path my dragons in towards this multi-inferno later on. And the third thing is that the base over here it's quite wide over here, and it's gonna be really difficult for my queen to funnel this out and then come all the way here and take out this air defense. Basically she's not gonna get any air defenses. But if you see this side, then this side is a lot narrower, and I can use my queen to take out this air defense over here, and then I could potentially send my dragons in towards this eagle and use the stone slammer to take out this multi-inferno. So let's have a look at the attack. So on this one you can see that I'm going head on into the sweeper, and on most of the bases you can't completely avoid the sweeper. Like in the first one we saw how we completely avoided both the sweepers, but say around 75% or say even more like 80% of the bases you're not going to be able to do that. So in that case I would advise that you go head on into the sweepers rather than approaching the sweepers at a weird angle, because if the dragons go into the sweeper at a weird angle, then they may get knocked out of the base and towards the trash buildings, and it's gonna completely fail the attack. And once again you can see the dead space here where the sweeper is. we're going to use that dead space to funnel our dragons in towards the eagle, and also to funnel the stone slammer in towards the multi-inferno. So always use that dead space to advantage. And CC on this one pulls out towards the stone slammer. You have to be careful that that does not happen. You should time your attack such that the CC pulls towards your dragons rather than your rather than the stone slammer, because otherwise it loses all its value. And on this one you can see that I use the bat bomb instead of the bat wave, and I'm using the ice golem to tank one of the visit towers at the back, and I'm gonna use the freeze spell to tank to freeze the other visit tower. And my freeze was a bit off here, the timing was bad. You have to be better with the timing. You have to freeze the visit tower just before it starts to target the bats. And also watch how good a funnel my heroes got over here. They took down like 75% of the trash at the outside so that my dragons stayed centered in the base. Just before, when I start my dragons, and look at the funnel here. I mean, this is the kind of funnel that you want to get with your initial troops, your heroes, E-Drag, P.E.K.K.A, whatever you're taking for the funnel. This is the kind of funnel you want, so that there's nothing on the outside where the dragons, exit the attack, or the stone slammer exits the attack. You don't want that. You want them funneling right in towards the core. Okay, now let's have a look at the next phase. Once again, I'm using my queen to try and get that air defense down. I'm using my king to funnel out all this trash on this side, using the E-Dragon to funnel the other side, and I'm making sure that my heroes stay out of the range of the enemy clan castle so that they don't pull out the hound or whatever ground targeting CC is there in that. And this one has single infernos, and when you see single infernos at Town Hall 11, then Dragbat and Lalo are probably like the strongest attacks. They should be your go-to attacks, because bats can really dominate single infernos. And once again, I'm using the stone slammer separate from the dragons, like a Sui kind of like a solo into a different part of the base. And once again, I'm fighting the sweeper head on. So what happens is that it only pushes my dragons back instead of pushing them completely out of the base. So all it does is that it just slows down your dragons, but it doesn't completely kill off the value of your dragons. Because remember, you won't have enough those many freezes. If this was something like, say, a max drag, so a Mars dragon attack, or like a frozen dragon attack, you'd probably be freezing the sweeper. But you don't have those many freezes, so it's always best to either completely avoid the sweepers or go straight into the sweepers. And always bring cleanup with this attack. I don't have any minions on this one, but generally speaking, bring at least like 3 to 4 minions to help with cleanup, because you don't want a time fail. Okay, now let's have a look at a different kind of a base design. So on this one, you can see that there's 3 air defenses guarding the eagle, and they're all well set inside the base, so you can't really grab any of them with your heroes. And you can see that the splash damage, which is both the inferno towers and the visit towers, are at the back end, so we can't really charge into the eagle here with the dragons, because the air defenses will kill all the dragons, and you can't really freeze through all that splash at the back end. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna charge straight into the splash over here, and we're gonna use a bat bomb on top of the eagle. So once again, my heroes have funneled either side. I used a giant and some wizards to funnel, and then I used this E-Drag because he was getting good chains out of the storage over there. And you should always look for opportunities like this where your E-Drag can chain a storage, because that's where the E-Drags get a lot of value. And I talked about how you want the eagle to go down before you start your bats, but on this one, my dragons start scattering away from where the eagle is, and I was kind of expecting that. So what you want to do is you want to bat bomb right on top of that eagle, and you want to use the rage because the bats take a really long time otherwise to take the eagle down, and that can really kill the momentum from the attack. And if you're trying to freeze through areas covering the like splash areas covering the eagle, then the freezes are not gonna last that long for the bats to, you know, take out the eagle and move on. So preferably do the bat bomb on the eagle because the rage really helps take the eagle down. Okay, now let's have a look at this last space over here, and I want to show you the kind of mistakes that can be made and why you should avoid them. So again, I'm using my heroes to funnel one side, and I'm using E-drag to funnel the other side. I want my queen to go and take down this air defense over here, and then that should set up my dragons to move in towards the base. And once again, now you'll see what I said about the dragons, about sending the dragons head on into the sweeper. On this one, you can see that they're gonna be approaching the sweeper from a weird angle, so they're gonna get kind of pushed out towards where that elixir storage is, where the hound is right now, that elixir storage, and it's gonna cause a lot of problems here. I used I delayed my stone slammer also a lot over here. It should have come down a lot sooner, and at this point I've started the bats, but the eagle is not yet down, and this is really risky. And you can see my bats have been thrown out of the base by the sweeper. Fortunately, my stone slammer comes in, takes out the sweeper as well as the eagle, and fortunately there were dragons outside the range, outside that dead range of the eagle where the eagle can target, so the eagle didn't, you know, redirect towards my bats, or it would have instantly killed all my bats. And there's another thing that you should remember is that you want to use your bats separate from your dragons always, because the dragons can run into a red bomb. The bats never really trigger the red bomb by themselves, but if there's a dragon in range, and it can put a red bomb out, and it could completely kill all your bats. So try to keep your bats separate from your dragon attack. And that's it for me for this guide. I think I've given you all the concepts that you will need for this attack, and if you have any suggestions from me, then you can drop it in the comments box below, and I'll see you next time.